Guys, today we'll be talking about JWT, and JWT stands for JSON Web Token, and how we gonna use this JSON Web Token to protect our routes into our servers, whether you're using NodeJs or whether you're using Java Spring Boot application. JWT uses everywhere. So how this works, I'll explain you in a very easy manner, and then we'll go in a live example in our code. I'll demonstrate you on a Node.js server. But before that, let's understand how this JWT works, right? So as I mentioned, JWT stands for JSON Web Token. And the way how it works is basically you have a user, right? On the left, you can see I have a user which can access your routes, right? If you're defining any routes, like let's suppose if you're defining a dashboard route, if you're defining a user profile route, or whether you're defining any XYZ route, right? So user can access these routes, right? And that's how you are designing your application. But what happens if some bad user comes, right? And you don't want to give access to those users. With this design, we haven't designed any protections or any authorization as of yet. But as you can see, the bad guy can also access these routes, and they can see the data and all, right? Now what happens if you want to protect these routes? What happens if you want to protect these in a such manner that only this user can access it, right? So now that's where the logging system comes, right? So the way how login works is the user can go on a login page, right, slash login, and then they can get the authorization, and then they can access these URLs, right? So now this won't work. They has to log in it, and then they can access these endpoints, right? How are you gonna maintain the sessions, right? How the browser maintains the session? If you log in on maybe facebook.com or google.com, right? So they just require single login, right? You sign in for one time, and then when you visit that website next day, you don't have to log in again, right? So how they maintain it? So they uses something called JWT, JWT token, or maybe auth or some other things, which maintains the session on the user side also, right? So let's try to explain how this login works. So when a user logs in, we return the sys server returns us with the token, which we call it as a token. This login, this token, right? This token user can store into the browser, and the way how browser saves it, maybe you can save it in a local storage, right? Or maybe you can store it in a cookie kind of thing, right? So these things work. Now what happens is when a user visits this page next day, they don't have to log in back again. They can simply use this token. Since they have a token stored in their browser, they can use this token, right? They can use this token to log back in, right, to access these URLs. So every time you are accessing these URLs, you need to send these tokens to each URLs, right? And then you can access the data. So that's how these tokens and sessions are maintained, right? Now the good part about these tokens are, since you have created these tokens on a server, right? Since you have created these tokens on this server, we can maintain this token in a database, right? And if you want to clear, right, if you want to say I want to clear this user or some set of user, everything I need to clear on that side. So I can simply go on the server and delete that ID, right, that key. So basically when a user comes and log in again, they can't log in back, right? They need to again request a new token, and that's how basically the JWT works, right? So I hope you got the basic understanding of the JWT token. Now the good part about this is, if maybe some bad character comes, right, in the picture, so they can't log in into the system, they can't log in, they can't access these, right? They need this JWT token, right? They need this token to access these URL. So they can't access it directly, right, until unless they get this your session and cookies and all. But there are some other methods also which Google's and with big companies, giant companies uses. They uses some location based, IP based tracking also, right? And then device also, they track it. What devices are you using? If someone got your cookies and if they're trying to log in with some other IP or some other devices, then they won't allow it, right? They require a new token. So there are many layers of protection that you can use, but the basic is the JWT. Now the JWT token, we send it in a header part, right? So we send this in a bearer form. So we have a bearer, right, as a prefix, and then we send it the token like this. So this goes in a header part, and this goes in a HTTP, right? HTTP call. If you're doing the HTTP call, it goes in that header part, and you can send this bearer token any request like get, post, right, or put, or delete, or even if you're doing real time applications, maybe in a WebSocket, so you can use there also. So in the next part, I'm gonna show like the basic Node.js application. So I'll be demonstrating a Node.js application, and then I will be generating this token. So I'll be generating the JWT token, and then third, I'll be using this token to access the authorized links, right? I will be protecting some of the links. So let's go ahead and let's hop onto the code now. So guys, let's start with our small application on JWT token. So as I mentioned in previous step that JWT stands for JSON Web Token. So I'll be demonstrating a very simple example on Node.js. And also I'll start from scratch. So if you guys are starting from beginning, I'll explain all the things to you, like how I'm setting the Node.js server and how I'm implementing this JWT. So let's start and I'll explain you what I'm using. So first I'm using VS Code, and I've created one folder called JWT. And inside this, I'll be installing few things. Second, I'll be using Express. Express as a library is a very famous library on the Node.js. So I'll be using Express to host and create a server. And then I'll be using JSON Web Token library, right? It's very popular. You can see the downloads also. So I'll be using this. And the third will be the Postman. And Postman will help us to test few endpoints that we'll be creating. So if you don't know about Postman, you can go and explore about the Postman. So first I'll start with basic server. So I'll go new terminal, and I'll do npm init to initialize node npm package. So this will call package name JWT. Just press enter. I'll press enter, right? And this will create us basic package.json file. So let's install few things. First, I'll be installing NodeMon. NodeMon will help us to live watch our changes. So if I am doing any live changes on our server or anything in a file, so it will auto restart our server. So I'll do yon add -t as a development, and I'll add NodeMon. Yon is a very popular dependency management tool which help us to install npm packages and all. So I'll add yon add as in a command line. And -d stands for, it's a dev dependency, so that's why I'm using a -d, and I'll press enter. So this will install us the NodeMon. So you can see it's installed in the dev dependencies, right? So I'll install few more things. So I'll go yon add express to install the express, and I'll go yon install web JSON Web Token, right? So I'll wait for this, and yon add JSON Web Token, right? So for this example, I'll be using only three things. So you can see dependencies, I have added Express and JSON Web Token, and NodeMon is in the node modules, right? And one more thing I'll be adding is the type, right? So type, I'll use module. So it's a new way of using ES6 modules. I'll explain you what I mean. So just type as a module. I'll create one file called index.js, right? So let's start with our server. I've created this index.js file, and first what I'll do is I'll initialize Express. So how you can initialize Express is just import Express from Express, right? And second, what I'll do is make a app or maybe application. I'll just name it as an app. So it's a const and then Express, and this will initialize our application. This will create an instance of Express, and then we can use various method of this application. So I'll use app.listen, and I'll give a port of 5000, and then a callback of maybe when the service started. We can do a console.log and do server is now started, right? So I'll do that and save it. And if I run this, right, if I run this using nodemon command, nodemon index.js. And since we have installed nodemon, so you can type nodemon and then index.js. And then if I press enter, so it will give me some error. It will say express is not defined because I have misspelled it. So I'll correct this express and I'll try to run that again, right? Okay. And it's not list, it's listen, right? Right. So now you can see the server is now started. And if we go on 5000, basically you can go on localhost 5000. So you will see nothing. I'll tell you. So if I go now on the browser localhost port 5000, you will get nothing, right? Cannot get a slash. So this is because we have not defined anything in this base route. So let's define our base route using app.get, and then we can define the path and then the callback, right? So callback is basically when someone visits this route, a callback will be called, and in this callback we have request and response. So you can name it any variable, request and response or anything, right? And in this callback we'll use response dot json, and then I'll give a success as true, correct? So I'll save this and it will auto refresh our server. And if I go now on this port, so you will see now we get success as a true, right? So now we have created a very simple server on Node.js using Express, right? Now the issue comes when you deploy this code on a production server, and anyone can visit and see all your information, right? If you are defining more routes, like let's suppose if you have a user database or something, and you're doing a user, and then it is returning something user data and something like that, right? Name, my name is Prashant. So if you're doing like this, and if I go and visit a user, right? So everyone can see the data, right? And we can do similar things on a postman also. So postman can also help us to send these requests. So if I go on this and slash user, so you can see the response is a name, Prashant, and all the data is now freely available to everyone, right? But we need to protect these routes. So how do we protect these routes in a scenario of a sessions, right? When you're doing logins and logouts. So since I've explained you how the token works, so we'll be sending a token, right? And how these tokens are saved is when you visit on some website called, let's suppose if you're logging on Instagram or if you're logging on Google or something, they send us token, and token is a random string. So I'll tell you how the token is. So token might be something called a random string, which gets saved in the browser. So this gets saved in a browser, and how the browser works is browser saves this in a cookie, or maybe in a session, or maybe in a local storage, and then we can send this session or maybe a token. We call it as a token, right? We send this token to server, right, in a server, and then server sees this as a valid token, and responses back with the correct information. So let's suppose if I'm having if I want to protect this user and not this slash base endpoint, so I can define, I can make something magic happen, and send this token to this route only, and then protect this route. So that means if someone is trying to search and if they hit this URL, they won't get any response until they send this exact token which I have defined, right? So how we gonna generate this token, I'll explain you, right? So you get the basic information, and if you haven't understood what I'm saying, you will get some more clarity once I'll start coding. So what I'll do is, since we have installed JSON web token, so we can go ahead and create one folder called services, right? Inside the services, I'll add a file called JWT.js just to separate our code in different files. So I'll go ahead and import JSON or maybe JWT, anything you can import from JSON web token, right? So once you import this, now we can go back to the JSON web token page, and we can see all the methods that is providing us. So first we'll be using the sign method to create our token, right? So first thing first, so first step is how we're gonna generate this token that I have explained you, right? So first thing we'll be doing is generating this token, generating token, right? So how we gonna generate this token? So we'll be using the methods of signing. So signing will help us to generate this token. So I'll copy this, right? We have imported JWT, and then I'll use sign, and I'll be not using it like this. So let's define our first const called JWT service, right? Let's define this as a service. So it's an object, JavaScript object, and inside this I'll define some properties called get token to get the token, right? And this will be a method. So I'll write an arrow function, and inside this we'll be using the method. So this will accept any JSON, right? Any JSON I can sign in, and I'll be using this method. So I'll do this copy, and this will return a JSON JWT sign, and then this foo I can send any JSON. So I'll send JSON, and then this second parameter will be using a key. So I'll give a random key for now, right? So I'll create another const called key, right? And I'll just enter some random string for now. I'll copy this and I will use this as a key, right? So this is how you're gonna sign this, and when I'll send something inside this JSON, it will return me a token, right? And token will have some validity. So we can define a validity to this token using expire, right? So the third parameter goes as expire in. So let's suppose if you want to expire that token in 1 hour, right? If someone is having that token, and if you want to expire the token in one hour, you can define it as 1 hour, right? So I'll save this file, and then I'll export this. So basically I'm exporting is because I need to use this in this routes, because basically I want to have something where user can go and get the token, right? So I will write app.get, and then I'll do get token, right? And then I will do a request, or maybe req and res, and then I will do nothing but response.json, and I will send the JSON as a token, right? I'll explain you. Now since I've exported this JWT service, I can use this JWT service, right? And give a something like name Prashant or something, right? And if I try to run this, so I'm getting this error because it's a service which I've created an object. Inside this, I need to call a get token, right? So I'll go JWT service get token, right? And now it will work, right? So let me restart the server. Sometimes we need to restart the server. And one more thing, that we need to import it from .js, because that's how the Node.js modules will work. So now I have named it as .js, and so now I'm importing it from .js, and I am using this get token. So if I go on get token, so let's go ahead and go get the token. So you will see that I'm getting this token that I've explained you, right? So now browser can save this token, and then they can send back this token, and will verify this token as a valid token, and then will protect our routes, right? So we just calling response.json to just response us with this JSON, and then inside this I am having a key value of token. So you can see this token as a key, and in the value I am calling this JWT service and calling this get token which we have created. Inside this I am sending this JSON, right? So basically it goes in this, right, in JWT service, and it calls get token. Inside this I'm sending this JSON, and I'm using this JWT sign to basically create our token and then get back with our token, right? So this is our token. So basically how you're gonna use this is when a user is signing in. So if you're defining something called login, so you need to basically check into your database if it's a valid user or not, and then once it's a valid user, you need to respond back with a valid token. So once a user logs in, they can store this token, and then you can maybe define a dashboard or something like this, right? So if you are defining something as dashboard, right, then you can get the token in this link, in this route, and then verify it and only send the information once the token is valid, right? And once the token is expired, so they need to log in again, right? So that's how you're gonna get this. So I'll rename this back to get token. Let's try to use this token to access our dashboard, right? So dashboard will return us back with some basic data maybe, right? So data means I can name as my name, right? And anything, right? Age or something. So I'm 25. So I'll save this, and now if I go and create one new route, so I can go in Postman, create one new route and give it as a dashboard. So if I visit this, you see I'm not sending any token or anything, and by default it's just returning me the data, right, which is expected. So how I need it is basically if I send this token, only then it should return me the data, or else it should return me 401, right? That this route needs authorization or something. So basically we're gonna protect this route. So how we're gonna protect this route is using JWT. So we're gonna define one more property called verify token, right, which will verify our token and will accept our token in this, and it will be an arrow function, right? We'll go back to the documentation of this JSON web token, and then this we gonna have a verify, right, this verify method. So this verify method accepts a token, a secret key which we have, and a callback, right? So let's scroll down and let's see how we're gonna use it. So just this, right? So we'll copy this verify, right, and we're gonna return JWT verify, we accepting this token, and the key should be exactly the same which we have used for signing in, right? So it's the same key, right? So basically we are encoding and then we are decoding this. So you might be thinking how we're going to protect this dashboard endpoint, right, with this token. So we're going to use this token. So let's copy this token and let's create one more tab, and let's go and enter a key of authorization, right, and add a prefix called bearer, right? And I'll explain you why we are using this bearer. So I'll paste this token over here, and in this URL I can go and give a localhost 5000 dashboard, right, slash dashboard. So now you can see if I check this authorization, the token is now sitting on the link, right, like this. So if I try to send this request, so if anyone is listening and looking at the request, they can easily get the token and then they can steal this token, right? So the correct way of sending this token is not in a params but in a header, right? So if you go in the headers, you can define this token. So I'll copy this, I'll define it over here, right, and paste it and define it over here, and then I'll delete this, right? So now the token is now sitting on the headers part, right? So in our HTTP protocol, the correct way of sending this token is using the headers only, right? Because it's a standardized way of sending the tokens in a header only, right? And everyone sends it in a header. So if you're defining some endpoint in, if some other team is working on front end or something, then as per the web standards, the token should go in the headers only, right? So that's how the token works, right? And the way how things are standardized is because if we have not standardized this, that the token needs to go in the header, then what people will do, they will send the token in params or maybe in the body or anywhere. So that's not a set standard, right? So we need to follow the HTTP standards, which is sending the authorization token in a header. And bearer is basically telling that this is a bearer token. We call it as a bearer token. So we add a prefix called bearer and then accept the token like this, right? So now we can go back and let's extract the token in the link. So if we send this request, you can see we still get the response back, right? If I remove this token, I'll still get this response back. So I need that if I check this token, if I'm sending this token, only then I get the data. If I'm checking this, I should not get the data. So how we gonna protect this route, I'll explain you. So now let's go back to the dashboard endpoint and let's try to extract this token, right? So how we're gonna extract is using const, and let's extract first the headers. So the headers, and we'll call request dot headers, and we'll extract authorization, and it should be a small case, and this should be also a small case, right? So I'll copy this authorization, and then I can go ahead, and this will give me this entire value. So how I'm gonna extract the token from this is using split, right? So I can go const token, right? And then I can maybe name it as auth header, and const equals to auth header dot split, and I'll give a space because we are splitting this using a space, and I'll get the first value, which is basically the token, right? So I'll get this token. So this will give me the token, and now if the token is not there, so if the token is maybe null or maybe not defined, I can send a JSON dot, or maybe sorry, request dot send status. 101 basically means unauthorized. So if I try to save it, and let's try to not send this token. So if I go and send this request, you will see I'm getting an error, and we need to do a question mark. So if a header is not defined, we don't need to call a split, right? So if I go and hit this, right, so we get a 401 as an unauthorized link, right? So that's how we're gonna protect our route. So now you will see if anyone is visiting this route slash dashboard, they can't access our data, right? They can't see the data in our endpoint. So basically it's a 401, and then if I try to send this using a wrong token, so if I give a random token, I'll give a random token, then still it works. This is not a valid scenario. We need to verify this token, right? This is because since we are sending this token, we are not verifying the token. So how are we going to verify it? Since we have defined this verify token method on this service, we go back, we call JWT dot verify token. We're going to send this token to this, right? And we can go and do a console log first, right? Let's do a console log, and let's see what it returns us, right? So now we are calling this verify token, and then we are sending this token, right? So let's try to send this correct token now, right? So if I send this token, it will say some error is happened, JWT is not defined, right? So it's a JWT service, sorry. So let's try again. So now you see it returns me an exact decoded value, right? So now it is working fine. So what I can do is, if is this is defined, right, then only then return me the data, right? So return the data. So now let's try to save it, and if we send this, now you can see the data is coming. But if I uncheck this, now it is unauthorized. But if I try to send a random token, let's suppose if I change this string from D to F, right? So if I try to send this, I'll get a internal server error, right? So I should not be getting a internal server error. It should be a 401. So why this is happening is basically it's going inside this, and it's basically failing, right? So we have not error handled it properly. So how we're gonna error handle it is we're gonna go in verify token, and we're gonna wrap it using try catch, right? So if we try catch this and return and catch it, right? So we're gonna return it as a false. So if it's a false, we will not return anything, right? And in this, if it's a false, right, in a else block, I can basically return a 401 again, right? So this means if a token is true, only then send the data. But if a token is false, or if it failed anywhere inside this, it go inside the catch, it will return me a false, and it will just return a 401. So now if I try to send it again, so now you can see it's a 401. So user can go and get a token, they can get a new token, right? They can copy this token, or browser can copy this token, and they can replace this. I'll replace this token. So now this is a valid token, and now I can send this, and now boom, it's a valid scenario, right? So now one more bonus tip is, if we are defining one more route like this, calling user profile, right? So now we are copying this code everywhere, right? So we are copying this logic unnecessary, or we can abstract this piece of code into a service or something. So let's abstract it in a middleware. So how we're gonna extract is, we're gonna make a const, and we're gonna make it as a middleware. So Express has a middleware where we can just use as a plugins, right? So let's use as auth middleware, right? We can name it anything. It will be a arrow function, and it will accept a request, a response, and a next, right? So so it will accept three things. This middleware will accept three things, and we're gonna cut this code. So let's cut this code from, let's cut entire code, and let's paste it over here. And this data should not be there. So this will be uh, in the dashboard only. So let's remove everything from this dashboard and just paste this, right? So now our code is very simple, right? And in this also, we can just remove this and paste this, and maybe call it as a profile page, maybe, right? Something like that. You get the idea. Now how we're gonna use this middleware is basically, and in this if block, we're gonna call this next, right? Which we are calling it from here, right? So let's call it as a next. So how we're going to use this middleware is very simple. So in this Express, since we have defined all this route, so if I want to protect this dashboard route, I can simply add this as a second parameter, and the last parameter will be the callback, right? So now I can paste this, right? And now dashboard and user profile is now protected. So if I go back and if I try to run this, right? If I not send this authorization, so get the unauthorized, right? So now it's a very easy approach. If I'm defining any new route, I can go ahead and protect this route using auth middleware, right? So you can do all these crazy things from this auth middlewares, and using this authorization, but you get the basic idea on how we are using this JWT token on protecting our routes. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed and got the basic understanding on how I'm using this JWT token. And one thing, the final thing is not to put the key inside this, because anyone having this key can use the key and decode and use other things. So right way is to put this key on an env file. So we can create this .env file I just created now, and we can keep this JWT, and we can define a property called JWT key and put the key inside this, right? And we're gonna install this package .env. So let's add this package. So I'll do yon add .env, and now we can easily use this. So I can put this random key on this, delete this, right? Import this .env config in this file .env config, and now I can replace this key, right? Replace this key using env dot process, sorry, using process dot env dot key, JWT key, right? So we can see process.env and then the property name, so JWT like this. And then let's save it and let's try to run this again. Oh sorry, nodemon, and if I try to run this, you will see a similar thing not working again, right? So if I send this, so it's now working again, right? So that's how you need to use this, and you don't need to push this in a git or something. This should be a very simple file. It should not be sitting anywhere, so you need to define all the private properties over here. So I hope you got the basic understanding on how I'm using this JWT service to verify these routes and protecting these routes, right, which I have defined. So thanks for watching this video. So guys, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel and like this video for more awesome content, and I'll see you in a next video. Thank you.